Okay, thank you very much. Welcome aboard, or welcome back for some, if you've been participating in some of our other webinars so far. As you know, we started back with our webinar series this past week, and we have, quite a few more coming up. But anyways, today we're going to deal with RRAP cost estimating, and since our speaker today, and who will be talking about the estimating and the cost factors for RRAP and the actual, completing the forms, is Vince. Vince, you want to take it away?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. At least this morning in my city here, Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Greetings. I guess I'll give you a brief background on myself. My name is Vincent Generou. I'm a First Nation member of the Sturgeon Lake First Nation here near Prince Albert. I'm a housing advisor for the Prince Albert Grand Council. Been here on and off since 2003. I did take some time off and go to work for the Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations for a couple of years. Went on my own as a contractor, a housing advisor for another couple of years, then I came back here. So I've been back since 2010. My other title is also treasurer for the First Nations National Building Officers Association. And I'm also a trainer approved for under the CMHC contract, request for trainers. I've been involved in construction and housing for 46 years, right out of high school. So I'm 62 years old, by the way. And I'm a Red Seal carpenter. I'm a Class 1 building official, and also a project manager. So that's basically my background. I've done quite a bit of work in Alberta as well, in Musqueam, it's called now. It used to be called Hobbema. It's a first taste of First Nation housing. Prior to that, everything I did was mostly in Saskatoon, commercial construction. But I did earn my Red Seal there. And I used that experience to train people in Musqueam. And we built up to 50 houses a year in that community. It was very busy because of their oil revenue. And they have the same issues, even though they have a lot of oil money, I guess. But they also have bigger houses, so you learn lots on those. And I brought that experience back to my own tribal council. We have 12 First Nations here. We do roughly 160 RRAP a year. Our inspectors do. We have 3 inspectors of the council. We also have a contract for the northern part of Saskatchewan, where we have 5 other tribal councils that are under our contract. So I also review the RRAPs that come in from those areas. So I'll get into my presentation. We actually have done this presentation for CMHC. It's usually a half a day. We're going to try to condense it to the more important parts. Claude has covered a lot of what we did present, and he will be presenting in more detail through these webinars, so that's good. And we've presented this in Saskatoon, Regina, Edmonton. So we started off with just a Winnipeg event, and they liked it so much that they called up the other regions and said, it's good, bring them in. So I usually team up with one of my inspectors, but today I'll be winging it alone. So this is an overview of what I'll be discussing today. As you know, you probably have a various amount of experience for you individuals that are on today. Some of you might have done all this already. You know what the RRAP program entails. But for those of you that haven't, I'll do a kind of a brief overview through this presentation. So we cover all what does it take to qualify for RRAP, the qualifiers. We'll talk about divisions. Every work item falls into one of including overcrowding. And like I mentioned earlier, we will utilize the cost estimating templates that Claude has provided, and that'll help you understand what I'm presenting here today. If you want to work with any of the documents I provide. So we talk about the tender RRAP, the invitation to bid forms. We'll talk about that later in the presentation. What is stick estimating? Gathering detailed material labor pricing, and the importance of tracking everything you do, saving it to a database or a library so that you can use it for future projects. So qualifying repairs, for those of you that are familiar with the RRAP program, are required to correct deficiencies that threaten the health and safety of occupants or the integrity of the building. You have to meet one of these requirements as a qualifier. More often than not, the qualifying item is a roof, replacement of shingles, or replacement of major components such as furnaces, mechanical systems, plumbing, and the other qualifier is the house is overcrowded. I have a sheet on what how you determine if a house is overcrowded or not. Standards. It's a little further down. Minimum health and safety. All work required to bring the dwelling up to a minimum level of health and safety must be undertaken. For RRAP purposes, the health and safety means a reasonable quality of structural soundness. Fire safety along with a reasonable heating, plumbing, and where these systems exist or are required by the authority having jurisdiction. The authority of having jurisdiction, you might have heard, is the chief and council. They have ultimate say on how the project is approved or the quality of work. They hire an inspector to handle code compliance on new housing, but for RRAP, it's a little different. We are hired by CMHC to come and do progress inspections, and as inspectors, we also determine which work item will be a qualifier. It's usually starting with the major items first, the most costly item, if it falls under one of these categories of health and safety. So today I'm going to show you the breakdown of a roof qualifier. I talked earlier about the divisions. There's 12 divisions in the RRAP standards. The RRAP standards are available on CMHC's website for regular RRAP and also for disabled RRAP. And you'll have a better idea what each of these sections involves. The roof, for example, will fall under Section 5, the building envelope and structure. And it has different titles, like 5.1 to 5.10 or whatever, for specific items. And these work items must show up on the scope of work or the invitation to bid. And I'll explain that when we look at the form. I mentioned earlier about the national occupancy standards. Maximum of 2 persons per bedroom. Household members of any age living as part of a married or common law couple share a bedroom with their spouse or common law partner. So they get 1 bedroom. Lone parents of any age have a separate bedroom. And household members aged 18 or over have a separate bedroom, except those living as part of a married or common law couple. Household members under 18 of the same sex share a bedroom, except lone parents and those living as part of a married couple. Household members under 5 of the opposite sex share a bedroom. So this situation would arise only if households with an odd number of males under 18, an odd number of females under 18, or at least one female and one male under the age of 5. An exception to the above is a household consisting of one individual living alone. Such a household would need a bedroom. For example, the individual may live in a studio apartment and be considered to be living in a suitable accommodation. So that's an excerpt from the National Occupancy Standards for your information, and that would qualify the house for a RRAP. But before you can do any of that addition work or creating a room in the basement for to accommodate a bedroom, the rest of the house must meet those minimum health and safety standards. And that's the inspector's role, is to identify those. And possibly the individuals are disabled, so they will also have to be identified for accessibility, those work items, and that's a separate RRAP. And you have up to $60,000 in our region to do a RRAP, and you have another $60,000 to do the disabled portion. But then again, we don't get a lot of RRAP dollars this year. Our RRAP program was slashed in half, so it's most likely that you'll get a $30,000 rental. Moving on, I talked about the RRAP invitation to bid. This is an excerpt. I'm going to ask Claude to, since I need an administrator to open files, and our offices are all closed right now. This is not a day that I'm in the office because of the pandemic, but our administrator has to be available to allow us to open certain files. That can be done. So Claude, can you open up the invitation to bid? I wanted to show what's involved in one whole renovation. If we could just flip through it slowly. Okay, so as you can see, the top item, number 1, it's under the program or section. If you go down to the roof, the number 1 item, the above information above this is like your contact information. That's pretty straightforward. So the qualifying item identified by the inspector on this unit was asphalt shingles. It's from the section in the divisions 5.6. And we as inspectors have to identify that as the qualifier by putting in a Q. Everything else under that will be mandatory. Anything identified in this form must be complete by the First Nation. You enter into an agreement that the work will be completed. If you don't, you have to justify why you're not doing a certain item. The inspector will assist you in developing a increase-decrease form. If it's found that you absolutely don't need that item, you fill out a decrease form and CMHC will consider that. Other than that, you must finish every item that's been identified. On the other hand, if we discover something during the renovation process, you will ask for an increase up to that $60,000 limit if you haven't used it up already. Anything over that, you'll have to pay for yourself. So there's a number of work items. Number 2 is a dilapidated structure, removing an addition that's been blocked off in this particular unit. And in the note section, it'll add anything more detail so that the individual knows what they're dealing with and the location. In this case, it's a 12 by 24 two-bedroom addition off right gable. So it's pretty bad shape, as you'll see from the pictures. Maybe, Claude, if you could show me a picture of the front of the house. Right, number one picture. Or no, 3. Yeah, there you go. If you can all see, this is one of our remote communities. I'm not going to say which one, but it's very typical of the conditions we're dealing with up here. I purposely put this house on because it's so typical of what's happening up north. And they have absolutely no lots to build new housing on. So they're at a standstill with their Section 95 program. And there's people living here. They can't very well tell them, evict them or condemn the house. They're trying their best to save this particular house. It's still salvageable. It's going to use up pretty much all their money and then some equity that they'll have to kick in from capital. You see how bad that addition is on here? So in the scope, get rid of it. And I think part of the family will eventually get their own house when they get some lots this year. So going back to the scope of work, and we'll go down to the next couple sections there, Claude. Siding, as you can see, that house needed siding, so it's going to get replaced throughout, and any damage underneath will have to be repaired as well. All the soffits will be removed. The house will basically be gutted on the outside. Anything that is discovered under those walls, maybe after you start getting into it, you might find, well, the walls are so bad, you may not be able to do this house. And we've run into that situation a few times. So the metal soffits and wood fascia are going to be replaced in this case. There's a substantial rot on that roof as well, so there's going to be sheathing to be replaced and priced out. That'll be up to the contractor. As an inspector, we can't go in and start removing things. That's a different class of inspection. We just do the class 1 or level 1 inspection, which is visual. If the band wants to get right into it, they can create some access points for us to see as inspectors to show us areas around windows, or if there's snow on that roof, shovel it off and give us a really good view of what's under there. Windows, that's a big work item. It's usually on every single wrap that we do because these houses are probably 20 to 40 years old. The windows are not always the best from that time era. There could be single pane or plexiglass that were replaced 2 or 3 times over, and the frames have all rotted out. Not very energy efficient, so we're going to recommend the window style that meets the 2015 code. And I don't know if you can see my cursor here. We've got to reference everything we do to the code item and the most current code. Because in the most current code, 2015 9.7 and 9.36 are dealing with energy efficiency. So these windows have to meet the zone requirements. They may have to be triple glazed, or they a double glaze that meets. It's much easier triple glazed that meets the standard. It's way more. especially in new housing. That's a mandatory item. So it also has the sizes, not the size, but the locations. It's such a tricky item, these windows, that we leave it up to the contractor to identify those, measure them up properly. As you get into some of these windows, you'll find that there's odd sizes from being replaced so many times. They might have framed it a little different from what if you have any blueprints. So it's not up to the inspector to have an itemized list of these window sizes. It has to be confirmed by the contractor and must meet required openings as per above. Going down to landing and steps. All too often, our steps are not treated because they've been replaced a number of times, and homeowners do it on their own. They put decks in, and after a few years from not being protected or treated lumber, they usually are rotting or very dangerous to come in and out of the house. We've also had occasion where they are shifting because they're not on proper piles. So as an inspector, we will recommend that as well. Doors and windows are a big item. The doors are heavily used because our houses are high mileage houses, what I like to call them. Up in that community, they're one of the highest overcrowding statistics. Probably 8 people per house on average. So doors, toilets, whatever is used probably 4 times more than an average house. They wear out. And then there's social issues where they're being kicked in. The windows are being smashed. So windows and doors are a big ticket item. And moving on to the friction fit blown-in insulation. In this scope, we have R50. In new housing in our area, it's R60. But these houses weren't designed to accommodate such a high level of insulation. And some of these houses, all we have to do is meet what was there before. In this case, it was R40, but we've increased it to what we could. R50 works. So there's a lot more work items on this house. I wanted to go through the roof just as an example. Gather pricing and how it's entered, or at least how we teach the homeowners or I should say the housing managers or their staff. There is such a high turnover rate in our area of housing that it's a constant process to provide training on how to gather costs, how to assemble projects. So this scope of work I just showed you, we recommend that the First Nation take that to their supplier. We have some pretty good suppliers. I think I sent the wrong file to Claude because I had removed the logo and name of this particular supplier. That's okay.
I think I have another one here.
Yeah, that's the one there.
There we go. That no free advertising, right?
No, I don't like doing that. I don't promote anybody. But anyways, this particular supplier, they itemize things for us, like for the footing. You'll notice that it goes right down to the lumber, tie wire, nails, and the price. They have the quantity, the unit that it's based on, and the price along with the total. So these are very handy to have because you can use this for a number of projects, not only RRAP. You got immediate needs this year, which are providing many rentals. You can even use it for your like this particular price I'm using in the example is a new house. The floor plan that I'm using as well that we sent you is based on this same house. This house and this material list actually came from last January, I believe. FNNBOA hosted a cost estimating workshop, and that lasted 3 days. We built a house from the ground during that workshop using this material list and that floor plan. So what we're recommending for RRAP, if you don't provide the invitation to bid that we just went through previous to this, you could use something like this, where you have a pretty recent price list for a new house and transfer it to your own list to create a price for a roof on a renovation. The only thing you would add is the labor portion. I do believe I have a spreadsheet. Let's see. It was an Excel sheet.
Was it? Okay.
I just sent that to you this morning.
Okay, I might not have it here, but I know I have one. Okay. Well, we'll give you another one.
Okay. Yeah, that's good enough. So what we do here at Prince Albert Grand Council is we've developed a costing spreadsheet, and it's this one particular spreadsheet is based on a new house. If you go right up to the top, Claude.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the house that we use for training. But as you can see, can you see my mouse moving around on this?
I can move. I can move mine. Where would you like the mouse?
I can actually see it. I can see it, Vinny.
Okay.
Okay. So that everybody else could see it too then. But we start out from the site layout right through to the additional items. Because there is things like project management. If you're paying a project manager to oversee a single unit or a group of units, and this allows for that. So you're building a house, you have on one column here, the items for a concrete footing, which are 22 by 10 by 16, number 2 or better spruce. They're $19.99 each, and $399.80 for that component. And they add themselves up at the very bottom, $3,162.93. And as a contractor, we also do that once in a while. We have a markup for material, up to 20%, I think, and then you would put a formula there, 20%, and that would add up here. So this cell and this cell for labor give you a total on the right column. In determining labor, we have, this is a simple spreadsheet that's been developed based on a unit price. We use a long form to determine a unit price of $3.50. I don't have that spreadsheet up here right now, but we have things like tear off. If it was an existing roof, let's say. Can we jump down to the roof surface? Right there. Down a bit. So we have starter shingles, asphalt roof shingles, hip and ridge shingles. And there's 4 starter shingles, 4 bundles, 62 bundles of the main roof. And then you have your hip and ridge shingles. We've allowed $25 a bundle, and the labor component is here. That component also on this one, this is a new house spreadsheet, but on a separate row, we would have the details for removing the existing shingles, and then we would have another row for disposal, because in some of our communities we have more costly disposal costs. Like the First Nations close to Prince Albert, they don't have their own landfills. They have transfer stations, and they take them to the Prince Albert landfill. And there's a higher cost for a fee, a dumping fee, as opposed to their own landfill, which is probably zero. So different aspects have to be considered, and then there's rows that you can add stuff like that. You have a material total, you have a labor total, and those must be entered onto that invitation to bid that we talked about earlier. And that particular form adds itself up. That's why CMHC is using it, I think. It's a little bit different from 5 years ago. We had our AWDS, we called it. It produced pricing for us. We'd have to update that AWDS once a year, mind you. But we would share that information with the First Nation, our scopes of work and the sample pricing, because they basically had no idea how to price out a house. A lot of them are coming in green, like I said. So not only do we teach new homeowners or new housing directors, we make a point of through our housing circuit rider trainer program to keep them updated constantly. That's our role, to teach the housing managers how to price out jobs like this if they don't have that experience, or show them, steer them to the right people that have that experience. They might have the experience right on their own community, but this spreadsheet that we have provide or will provide shows a whole house. If you go right to the very bottom, Claude. See, we have additional items. So this was based on a Section 95 application, a 301. And these additional items include things that you don't normally consider, like site cleaning. You know, safety first. A clean site is a safe site. And we even included some deficiencies, some budget for that. A final clean, dusting out and washing surfaces such as cabinets and floors. And then material shipping and handling on site. So up in the remote communities, especially, they ship in things on the barge, or they fly them in, or on the winter road. So some of their construction is not approved till late summer or fall. They need someplace to store that material that they've shipped. And then they need a budget for somebody with a truck to take it from their storage facility to the sites. So that's quite a substantial amount, $1,200. You need to include that. And then the contingency, we have 3% in this case. And then on the far right, these line numbers correspond with the actual 301 application. And they're actually entering these numbers here, are entering themselves on different worksheets at the bottom. So it has some value, the worksheet or this spreadsheet that we'll send you, in doing not only RRAP, but the Section 95 application as well. I kind of wanted to show you this, even though it doesn't necessarily involve what we're talking about, the RRAP program. This will be useful to you if you haven't used something like this before. I've used it. I've produced over 1,000 Section 95 units in my time. And, we improve on it every year. And all our First Nations are using this now. You're in the Tribal Council, and probably in Western Canada as well. I've presented this in a number of First Nations. So you have an idea of how to gather the costs. What we do mainly is get the First Nations to send their invitation to bids to their trusted suppliers. The lumberyard will send back what I showed you earlier, a detailed price list. You can either enter that price list onto this spreadsheet so you have it for future use, or simply keep that material list from the lumberyard and attach it to your RRAP application to back up what you've entered. It's not totally necessary in our region, but they may ask for it. Why is this cost so high? It's a big thing, especially with roofs and the labor aspect. Down in the south, they have access to professionals or specialists that deal with roofing specifically. Up north, we don't have that luxury, and it ends up costing up to 2-3 times their own labor because they're not specialists, and there's such a high turnover rate. They'll put 4 to 6 people on that roof for 1 week, and that costs money. So the band wants to ensure that that's covered, at least the labor cost. And it'll be substantially higher, and CMHC will, why is that so high? It's based on past experience, we tell them, or the band will state. So keep the material lists and your labor breakdowns to justify each work item in case there is a question later on. So I'll go back to the presentation. If there's no questions on this.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions.
Okay.
So one of the questions is, there's big demand for the spreadsheet, so we're going to share that with everyone, right?
Yeah, I'll get the right spreadsheet. That the one that was built in. I think the one I sent, I removed.
Yeah, I think I might have just sent that to Claude by email about 30 seconds ago.
Yep.
So the other question is, when you build in your cost and you have to do internal labor costs, does that also include costs related to occupation, health and safety, and insurance costs? They have to be built in, correct?
They have to be, but on reserve we don't have the greatest access to insurance. I also project manage things like the addiction center here on one of our communities. It's run by so it was $1 million project, and we had an individual that got hurt, so that comes out of our general liability insurance. They come onto the reserve here. You can arrange it, but they tell us that you have to purchase your own injury insurance. So yeah, you'll have to probably include the percentage of that cost into these, because you're liable, no matter if it's a contractor that's coming from the south. And remember that contracting, you're liable for their injuries. We learned that the hard way. And you're also responsible to send these individuals to programs such as fall protection training, or you could be liable for a lawsuit or a big fine from occupational health and safety. They have power on our reserves. But insurance is a different matter. It's kind of complicated. But ultimately, the First Nation is responsible.
Yes, the First Nations is the authority having jurisdiction. they're responsible, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So that's the work item. I think I lost control of the PowerPoint there, Claude. I need to go to the next slide.
Okay. If you can't get it, I certainly can probably bring it up.
Just to interrupt here, Lenny, can you mute your mic there, please?
That's what I wanted.
Or Claude, can you mute Lenny's mic? There you go. Nope.
Oh, keep getting the wrong one. There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, we were here. We were talking about what the costing.
Yes.
You
I'm
want?
on slides.
Okay, so I can go to the next slide if you want.
Yes.
Okay, so stick estimating.
Oh, it's not showing up. Can everybody see the next slide? I can't.
As I have asphalt shingles.
Okay.
Yeah, comes.
Hang on, I need to go back up top here and see if I can gain control again. Sure, content. Better?
There you go. So maybe I can go there now. No, I can't. So the various aspects of stick estimating, you list all the various parts of the job on the work item, where it says parts of the job, but it's actually a work item. You're listing various parts of that work item. List all the hours that it will take someone to complete each portion. List all the materials that will be used on each part of the job or work item, and list each subcontractor that you will need.
Vince, can I interrupt there? Claude, can you mute Lenny's mic? We're getting the feedback.
Okay, let's see if I can. Oh.
There you go.
We got him now.
Good work. All right. Sorry, Vince.
That's okay. So we talked about this slides, how to gather some of the information on here. Plumbing, heating, and electrical are different, especially in the north. We don't have access to a lot of those trades. We're asking up to 3 contractors for each work item. And we get quite a variety of pricing because it's so far away. They have to motel rooms, air, light, meals, which are probably double what you're used to. A burger down here would be about $10. It'll be $25 up there. But that has to be built into their costs, and it's very expensive. So you'll need to justify every trade that you that RRAP project for sure. Here's a material list for the qualifier like we looked at before. And this is just an excerpt from the Excel spreadsheet that we were showing you previous. The main number down here, 2558, has to be entered onto that invitation to bid. And you must have backup in case it comes up. Well, there's a that we use for the labor quote or the qualifier. So a number of different components that I talked about above, green section. So hours on the list. 4 hours, remove existing roofing and flashing. Unit price $100 an hour. Equals $400. And that 4 hours is not just one man. It includes probably three. I think it's $33 that we allowed for for each of these aspects. Price for installing the drip edge, $66. It will take a half an hour to go around the roof. It doesn't take long to put in 12-foot metal. And they're done. Install roof underlayment. That's $66. Probably 2 men. A picker truck, half an hour, $125. And from that one supplier, that's the average fee that they charge. But we don't have the luxury way up. You'll have to put in a budget for hauling a bundle one at a time. Even valley protection. So 1 hour, 2 men, 6 hours install shingles, $750. Then you might have some chimneys, plumbing stacks, stuff like that to put some rubber flashing or neoprene. Venting and ridge caps. So that's another hour for 2 men. Then cleaning up the site, $125. That includes the truck cost too. That's what was ascertained during the training. We actually about 40 individuals that participated in the last course at different levels of experience. So these are a rounded off figure from the about 6 groups we had that came in with their sample pricing into a final report. Then above all the hours above, we allowed 16.5 hours for prep, material handling, land, tools, basically overhead. A big part of the project that is missed. It's almost like a project management fee that we build into each work item for RRAP. That's very important because a lot of bands will forget that part and then they'll start doing the project. They run into trouble. They've only got so much money to work with. You might as well put in the proper price at the beginning. And if you really need something, there's always that increase application. So this roof, 2070 square feet surface area for a 1,380 square foot floor area, comes up to $25.84 for labor. Material to almost the same amount, just a little over $5,000. You'll notice that this house is 1,380 square feet, but the roof is 2,070 square feet. So how we determine that is there's little tricks of the trade. You take that 1,380 square feet. If it's just a square house with a straight gable roof, you multiply that by 1.375. Let's see what that gives us. You probably can't see it, but I'm adding this up. Yeah, it comes up to 1,897.5. So that tells me that this house has a third gate. The one we did for our training actually had a third gate. So that's why we come up with 2,070 square feet surface area, allowing for a 2-foot overhang and a 412 pitch or 1 in 3. So that's what the lumber yard uses too. If you give them a blueprint, they'll give you a material list based on their estimating programs. So compile all the line items, assemblies for that job or work item, attach a unit cost to each line item, total your numbers and have them checked by a second party that knows what they are doing, and apply your markup. So as a housing advisor, they often send me their invitation to bid to review. But it's actually just part of our training program. We're not really supposed to do that as inspectors. The process is now that CMHC sends us the invitation to bid or the request for an inspection. We produce an invitation to bid. We send that back to CMHC for their review. If they're satisfied with it, they will send it to the First Nation for their pricing. The First Nation then sends it back to CMHC, their completed pricing, and if they approve that, then they'll send us what they call an approved work item list and the request for inspection for us to go do progress whenever it's needed or finals based on that approved work item list. The First Nation cannot proceed without having that approved work item list in their files. So measure everything as it is built. Do not attempt to guess the size of a building or a part. Claude probably or has gone through this. So just a summary, I guess. Cubic items, superficial items, feet and square meters, lineal items, enumerated items. The process of good recording, very important. As an inspectors, if we don't have the luxury of having an actual floor plan, a blueprint, we have to measure everything up room by room, sketch, so that we can take that back to the office and come up with a proper quantity. For example, you might have a bedroom where you have to pretty much take all the drywall off. So it's pretty hard to guess at that if you didn't make a little diagram or a sketch. It might be 12 by 12. Part of the ceiling might be 8 feet. The other part might be 12 feet. Scissor truss style or cathedral ceiling. And pictures. We take at least one picture per wall, another picture of the ceiling, another picture of the floor or any deficiencies. We take that back to the office to create the scope of work. So that produces the invitation to bid that I showed you earlier. And you can use these records that if you're doing the pricing in a very similar fashion as the inspector did, you save that information and it's going to come in handy for future projects. Store in your own database and about costs for retrieval and use in the future. Update your information regularly. We suggest at least once a year if you're using that material price list from a new house. It's a very good tool if you have a more current version of that. It comes in handy for any size job up to a new house. And of course, there's other things not included. You'll have to gather that information as well, such as a disabled RRAP, the ramps, bathroom modifications, grab bars and such. So I think we have one more slide. Estimating has many shortcuts, as Claude mentioned, quick estimates, but none of them are reliable unless applied to a specific condition. Problems will arise when beginners think there are secret quick systems. Basic principles and methods can be applied to any type of construction. The more detail you have, the better. So you establish and develop your own system. You develop a network to assist in verifying costs. Maintain a database for future use. And gather tools like what Claude is presenting and what I presented today. It's a very condensed version of what we normally go through, but at least you'll get some tools out of it today.
So Vince, the one question what is a reasonable markup?
20% for material and up to 10% labor.
Okay.
If you're using a project manager, figure in their percentage. Don't forget to add that kind of stuff or else you'll get in trouble.
Okay. And again, we're passing out an itemized checklist, right, in terms of template as part of the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Those are any other questions from any other participants or comments? Again, a lot of this is a huge issue for many communities that are using RRAP.
Yeah. There's checklists for Section 95 on the process. And there's also one for RRAP that we can share.
Okay.
The First Nation Housing Department, if any of that staff are on this webinar, they've probably seen those. But I imagine there's some that haven't seen them. We'll provide those. As soon as I get off the air here, I'll send them to Claude.
All right, and we're sending them out to everybody.
Yes.
All right, that takes us to 1 minute over. Any further comments, questions, concerns? So I think we're good. Again,
thanks everybody.
Thanks, Vinny and Claude. Again, extremely informative. I know this was unique because some communities are not doing RRAP, but they're considering on doing RRAP. And those that are doing RRAP, this is a good update for that.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. And Claude, you're going to have to try to save the chat. I don't think I can. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Hi, John. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Well, I sent out the original group. There was 7. Then I sent out about 3 extra ones from people who indicated they wanted to take it. And I'm just trying to stop the recorder.